questions for Coach. We'll start with Justin.
Good to see you, Bobby. So Luke Weissong, in addition to playing receiver, he's also been heavily involved in special teams. What do you see out of his skill set and how that's going to help the team overall and how that translates to the next level?
Yeah, Luke's a warrior. He's his personality, his football IQ really gives him the ability to play anywhere on the football field. Then he's just extremely unselfish as a player, so it makes him probably the ultimate team player. So it's great to be able to move him around, let him play multiple positions on the field. And obviously on the receiver side of things, you know, he's elite playmaker, very tough, you know, great speed, everything that we really want in the room. And naturally just going to give him his best opportunity to play on Sundays, the special teams part, as well as just his skill set offensively.
As a guy who's also a returner at the NFL level, how much do you appreciate a guy like that?
Man, he's we need a lot of guys like Luke Weissong. We had a team full of those guys. Obviously, we need some bigger guys as well. But just his heart, his focus, like I said, his ability to be an ultimate team player. You know, those are the guys you want on your football team.
Jason and Troy.
What dynamic does Jaden Watley bring to the receiver group as a whole?
He's obviously his speed is very elite. It's definitely next level. His agility, body control. You know, he has a high football IQ as well, so his ability to play inside and out. And I think his experience in having played so much football really lets him settle in any offense. And, you know, he's just really not pinned down to be able to really good at one thing, but he's good at multiple things. So it's great to have him in the room. He's a great leader. Kind of quiet within the room, but I think he leads by example by the way he goes about his business every day.
And then Trace Bivey, it feels like every practice he has one of the catches like he did today with the leaping catch. How does that change how defense maybe operates when you know that there's a guy on the other side that could go up and get those type of passes?
He's hard to cover. You know, he's also picking up skill set to be able to stop and go. If you watch a lot of his one-on-ones and, you know, his ability to be able to get on edges and, you know, transfer his weight and, you know, really good with his eye control, all those type of things that you want in a wide receiver position. With the smaller guys, he's able to do a lot of those things now too. And then obviously just his natural ability to be able to track the ball and then being able to go up and make a play on the ball, contested catches, all those things that we need in tough moments.
Troy and Michael.
When you look at last season, kind of blocking in that screen game was a little bit of a struggle for that unit. Where do you think they've progressed with the new faces in the locker room in terms of pass blocking, run blocking, that type of stuff in the receiving room?
That's going to be a big part of our offense. So we put a lot of emphasis on that. We practice that. The boys are taking that, you know, personal because they, you know, it's really just about the willingness and the want to on the perimeter when it comes to blocking. There is some skill, there is some technique, but at the end of the day, it's just about getting the job done. So if you got a bunch of guys that are buying into that and understanding like that's going to help us offensively, I think we really give ourselves a chance to be able to, you know, stretch the ball in the perimeter run game, and you know, those guys are having fun doing it.
Where would you assess the growth in that? How do you feel about that aspect of their game right now?
I love it. You know, I think they're doing a good job. I think it's just like I said, it's one of those things you got to rep, you know, and it's always going to change in the games. You could practice certain looks. You can anticipate what you're going to see, but you got to be able to, you know, react and respond, you know, to what they're actually seeing out there on the football field. And I think that's a big part of the recruiting process with these guys. We're looking for guys that weren't necessarily robotic, but guys that are actually football players that can make adjustments, and, you know, being adaptable, I think is extremely important in that room.
Michael and David.
Your room is almost entirely new compared to what you had a year ago. So given that, what sort of progress have you seen in terms of the communication, chemistry, timing between the quarterback and the receiver from spring until now?
I think it started in spring for us because we were a complete group. We had 2 additions from the summer, so the spring really gave us a real opportunity not only to time it up with the quarterbacks, but even within the room. You know, the competition and the guys really getting to know each other within the room. And then in return, obviously working with Noah and other quarterbacks throughout the spring, summer, really gave them a lot of time to get to know each other. There's a lot of different personalities within the room. There's a lot of different backgrounds. There's a lot of different style of play. So I think the more they rep, the more they're together, the more they communicate, not only on the field but off the field, the more comfortable they are with each other. And just like the game when you were playing as a young kid, you know, it's always your best friend that's playing quarterback and you're playing receiver. It's the same idea. The closer they are, the better they'll be.
David and then Ryan.
What you mentioned size a little bit earlier, Coach, and one of the guys that might be able to give you that is Brandon Phelps, at 6'3", younger guy. Where's he at right now in his development?
He's done a great job with his progression and his development as far as his skill and technique. You know, Brandon's obviously has great size. He has a ton of experience from being, you know, the leading receiver in Arizona history in high school. He's caught a ton of balls. He has excellent hands. I think the biggest deal for him, he missed a year of development because of the injury last year. So, you know, that kind of slowed him down a little bit, but he was able to pick up from the spring this year, summer. I anticipate him being, you know, a big part of this offense. He's consistent. You know, he's a hard worker. He's very smart, highly intelligent. So it's great to have him in the room. And, you know, like I said, his consistency not only on the field, but even with his demeanor and how he carries himself is you know, it's a joy to have in the room.
And in terms of, you know, the way this offense is set up, it seems like maybe the smaller receivers are more towards the forefront, like Hudson, you know, and the taller guys like Rex and Trey have kind of been more so with the twos. What puts maybe those smaller receivers at the top, and is this offense maybe set up more for a small guy?
It's dynamic. It works for big or small. I think it's more of their actual skill set. You know, can a big guy change direction, speed, getting in and out of breaks, those type of things. If he can do that, he can play multiple positions within this offense. There are no true 1 and 2s right now. You see a group that kind of works with Noah more often. I've been trying to make sure I'm working that next set of guys in with Noah as well, because they're going to be a part of the rotation the way I see it. So I anticipate having 7, 8 guys that are going to be working with the ones and working with Noah. So we're trying to find ways to get them in certain areas, even if it's just one-on-ones or skelly or fastball stuff that we do early. So they're doing a good job understanding that they're going to have their opportunities and they're going to play with Noah or whoever's at quarterback, that top 8.
Brian and Justin.
With the desire to have things roll out faster in this offense, how do you teach guys to separate like immediately rather than longer into the play?
Oh, you're talking about route technique?
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to get the ball out quicker, these guys need to separate a little quicker. Like how does that get coached into things?
Yeah, that's a secret. I can't tell you that. No, I'm just. That's all has a lot to do with technique, and then also not only their football IQ, right? Understanding what the defense has given us. You know, are you hot? You know, can you break this route off quicker? The pass game is all predicated off of timing. So we constantly talk about understanding where you are in your route. You know, did you get rerouted? Did you have to get off press? Where's the quarterback at in his drop? Where you are in the progression. So a lot of these, you know, understanding about where you are in the progression and what type of route you need to be running at that time. What type of break do I need to make at the top of it? Is it truly man or is it zone? We do a lot of that talk in our room when it comes to film study. The boys are doing a really good job of understanding that. I think that's the hardest part when you're transitioning from high school to college and just even college to the next level is just understanding the timing and what you're running the route. Do you have time, you know, to do an extra move at the top and those type of things? So it's always based off an individual concept, individual player, individual route. Some are really good at it. Some need to be a little bit more aware of it. And, you know, between, you know, our top guy to our bottom guy, I think they're doing a really good job of understanding where the ball needs to go and when the ball needs to come out and where they need to be.
Justin and Troy.
Is there a wide receiver that you're coaching that resembles your skill set when you were a player?
Yeah, I like to think I have a little bit of everything in all those guys, you know, even the big guys. I like to pretend I was them at some point. I think I do a lot of my teaching is personal experience. So I think the guys, I think they all get a little something from that conversation because it's really not really based off of size. I think it's more, their skill set. And I think every single guy in that room has a skill set that was similar to mine one way or another. And majority of them are better than where I was when I was in college. So I think that's even more exciting to be able to coach because if they could take a little piece of what I understood and what I've learned later in my career, and if they could pick it up earlier, it really makes them ahead of the game. And so I think they're really doing a good job of, because we talk a lot about, what's expected at the next level. When I always talk about football 101 to football 505, like, that range of, if they can pick it up when I'm talking about these abilities and these skill sets that they have to have, and if they could pick it up now, then they just become, extremely elite early.
One of the reasons why I asked is because we talked to Gio the other day, and his mannerisms, just kind of the way he talks, very similar to you. So I don't know if you see his skill set as very similar to yours.
It's good. I like that. I really like Gio. I think Gio, yeah, that was a big reason why I was really super heavy on recruiting Gio. Gio was definitely, my top guy in that class. Him and Isaiah both were my two top picks. And so I'm extremely pleased with his football IQ. He's extremely smart, one of the smartest in the room. And so his ability to focus at his age, his ability to come in and ask extra questions, and then like his on-field learning is extremely unique because he wants that teaching right away. And a lot of times for me to be able to stop practice to be like, hey, come over here, let's talk about it. But for him to seek that information really gives him an edge. And, I'm just super pleased with his development and how fast he's coming along.
Troy and Michael.
Kind of going off of that, just the development of Gio and Isaiah, how they've come from being freshmen and midway through training camp and just understanding the offense and everything.
Yeah, Isaiah, he's a far way away from home, and he's doing a great job of really adapting to the change, I think culturally, and, being far away from home and really leaning on the guys within the room. My hat's off to the older players that are taking him underneath their wing, and really, having those private talks about, the progression and understanding that you're not gonna experience the success right away necessarily, and it's not an overnight situation that you're gonna be able to get to where you want to go. And I think he struggled with that a little bit early in camp. I think you're seeing him really mature super fast in his development as far as, paying attention in meetings and taking the teaching from the classroom to the field. Obviously, he is by far, the boys are going to hate me for this, but he's the fastest in the room. And so he had that skill set and being able to find, the ability to be able to start and stop, when to speed cut, when to break cut, all these type of things that I'm trying to teach him. It was foreign to him to begin. He's only been playing football for 2 years. He was a soccer player. He only been playing since his junior, senior year. So, that development for him is coming along, and I'm really, really pleased with how much he's taken to coaching. Gio, on the other hand, is he missed all of spring. So I think his ability to be away from the game and absorb the actual offense and not having to play, I think really gave him an edge. And then his, just his hunger and his want and his love for the game from being away from it, I think really hit home from him. So you're really seeing him pour it on fast and pouring on quick. So I'm really pleased with his development as well.
And then I wanted to ask you about a drill we saw inside during the stadium during the practice there, where the receivers are crossing each other and the back one's catching it, kind of creating traffic in front of them.
Yeah.
Where did that come about, and is that something that maybe you did at the NFL level, something that you brought from that?
Yeah, that's a distraction drill. It's just, just a simple, receivers constantly are getting hands and bodies flashing in front of their faces. So we're just trying to find a way to simulate that as much as possible. It's very difficult to do. But just to focus on the football, I think we've been doing a good job of catching the ball. There's times where, we can get a little distracted. It's really important, too, when we're in the stadium, just being able to make sure that they're getting comfortable with the lights and the setting and playing at night. So just trying to find a way to make sure that they're focusing on the football. There's a lot of different ways to get that done.
We'll finish with Michael and Justin.
You were talking earlier about how many guys you wanted to get ready. Coach Brennan said in the past he's rotated as many as 9 guys or much fewer than that. How do you make that determination about what that number is, and how involved is Coach Brennan in making that decision?
Coach Brennan's always going to have the final say on the majority of that stuff, but I'm grateful that he allows me to, take complete ownership of the room. So I'm sure he trusts my opinion and then my decisions on that. Whoever's ready to play will play, and that will be a constant, fluid situation from week to week. We have an idea who the top 6 are. There's a 7, 8, 9 in there that might have an opportunity to be able to come in and play in spots. I consistently talk about quality over quantity when it comes to the receiver play. You don't have to be on the field for 80 plays for you to be able to get 10 catches. So, we really want to make sure guys are fresh, guys understand the offense, guys know their roles, but, they're also obviously the guys that are playing at a high level, that are consistent, that are available, that are continuously getting it done day in, day out, will carry the bulk of the load. But I anticipate, all our guys, having a real opportunity to play this year and catch footballs in the game. Not just play, but actually catch balls.
Last question to Justin.
What has impressed you about just the way that Devin Hyatt has attacked his rehab and how he's been able to work his way back?
Yeah, Dev is, that's a tough journey that he's been on. Obviously, when I first got here, he was a walk-on. After the first spring, I was really adamant about putting him on scholarship. He deserved that. He earned that. Obviously, last year being a spot player, he came in, made some big plays for us. And so, his experience is valuable. And then late in the season for that injury to happen, is unfortunate. But his focus and the way he responded, to that injury and coming back to work and still believing in himself, having confidence in his ability to come back and be better really shows. Even with camp, there was still, some lows within camp that we've had already with him, but his response and his ability to be able to stand up, come back, really says a lot about his character. And then, I'm excited for him. He's a year older. He brings, like I said, valuable experience in the room. And, he has a skill set that's unique as well. So I'm excited to see how he can help us.
And now that he's been here for 8 months, just the connection, the relationship that you have with Seth Dymond and just kind of what he's been able to do.
Man, he's my guy. Seth is fantastic, and he is a great leader. He always has a plan. He believes in these boys. He believes in the coaches. I'm excited to work with him. Like I said, his energy is contagious. He brings it every single day. It's never a question about who is he going to be today. And so as coaches, we appreciate that because we can, we have something to look up to, something to emulate, and just super pleased working with him.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep. Later, guys.